सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। So, the whole message of Gita is it's our wrong relationship with the world, wrong understanding of the world, wrong expectations, false data. These are the things that give us sorrow. Any solution that is got in time, any solution that is got as an effect of a cause has to be finite. Since what we are seeking is infinite, it cannot be a result of cause and action or a happening in time. It has to be there all the time, everywhere, not known to be known. And further inquiry shows this factor as existence, as life, is common in all, is there with everybody, and it is their real being, because that doesn't change. What doesn't change is one substance like the gold in the ornaments, water in all waves and bubbles. Whatever does change are only appearances of that one real basic material. So, one who knows gold is not perturbed by the breaking of the ornaments. One who knows water is the essence of waves and bubbles, is not concerned about the birth and death of the wave. So also, one who knows this existence and life to be the essence of all of us, he thereafter is not perturbed by all the changing phenomena, mainly the principle of death. So what is needed is a clarity, not something to happen, for your freedom from sorrow, freedom from the mind, which is called moksha. Nothing has to happen. You need only a clear understanding of you, the subject, of everything else, including your body, mind, intellect, to be the object. Objects ever change. subject never changes. Objects have imperfections. Subject has no imperfections. So this has to be known. What is preventing or your confusions born out of your false understanding of your own self as the body? And because of this misunderstanding that you are the body, you develop several desires, false relationships. All these become thoughts that cover the real being, the subject that you are. Now these covers have to be thinned down. These covers have to be thinned down to have a clear perception of the subject that you are. The process of thinning down, is called yoga. And that if somebody has minimum confusions, Jnana Marga, direct, Sravana Marana Nididhyasana, somebody has mixed 50-50 Bhakti Yoga, somebody has too many attachments, too many confusions, for him Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga has mainly two aspects, not depending on the results, because results are all finite. They are needed for maintenance of your body, mind, intellect. They are needed only for maintenance of the equipments, and therefore we should not take that to be the end of life. So while karma is necessary, but we should not be lost in karma and depend on the results. And many of the negative thoughts that we have are because of the feeling that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Since I am the doer, I should enjoy. Since I am the doer, I should possess. We should understand that the vasanas play in the respective fields of gunas, monitored by the cosmic intelligence called God. You and I should be mere spectators, with the understanding nothing ever is going wrong. Whatever is happening is what exactly you need. God doesn't give you what you do not need. Have faith in Him. Accept what all He gives. Do not reject anything. Okay? This is all what we need. The other day in Bhagavatam, we shared two thoughts. Whatever God gives you, including sorrow, you need it. Whatever God doesn't give you, including prosperity, you don't need it. Remember these two thoughts. Whatever God gives, it can be sorrow, it can be pain, you need it. Whatever He doesn't give you, maybe success, maybe prosperity, you don't need it. Because each is a different patient. There is no common medicine. Each is a different patient. The doctor alone knows what medicine should be given to whom. We accept his wisdom. We accept his prescription. And all actions done not for the sake of results, for gaining the Lord. That can be done only when the action is shifted from egocentric desire to the welfare of the totality. Actions thus done for the welfare of the totality, actions that done for the welfare of the totality, harmonizing all people together, harmonizing all together, working together collectively for the welfare of the totality is called yajna bhava. When you do actions in this yajna bhava, spirit of sharing, spirit of sacrificing, spirit of harmonizing, when you do actions this way, you will not be dependent on the results for the ego satisfaction, and therefore they do not cover the peace that you have. You, since you are doing collectively, will not feel singularly responsible for any action, the doership, and want and feel that you should be the enjoyership. These three things, depending on results, doership, enjoyership, are the three major obstacles in your experiencing the peace that you are. You have to renounce them. That's called sannyasa. That's called tyaga. Renouncing the fruits is called tyaga. Renouncing the sense of agency and enjoyership is called sannyasa. So karma yoga has two aspects, tyaga and sannyasa. The bridge is through yajna bhava. So we have taken up that chapter 4. That chapter's emphasis is on need for dynamic action. Fourth chapter talks about dedicated actions or yajnas. The fifth chapter talks about renunciation of sense of agency and enjoyership. So in the fourth chapter, we have done up to verse 20, but I will just brush you with the 19th sloka. Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagnidagdha karmanam tamahu panditam buddhaha. Panditam, enlightened. Buddhaha, wise people call him a pandit, enlightened man, who yasya sarve samarambhaha, whose all undertakings, actions, are free from kama sankalpa varjita, free from desire and planning. How can anybody do any action without desire? How can anybody do any action without planning? Means egocentric desires, egocentric expectations for personal aggrandizement, for personal satisfaction. They become agitations that cover the peace. They become the agitations that cover the peace. You have to understand this simple principle. Why should I work without desire? What will I get out of it? You have to understand it is this desire that causes agitation, and that agitation conceals the peace that you are, which is experienced in your sleep when these agitations are not there. When these agitations are not there, in your sleep, you are peaceful. These agitations are caused by egocentric desires and egocentric expectations. Without egocentric, how to do? Offer all our actions as naivedya to God. Receive all the results as prasada from God. You should, for this, have faith in God's wisdom. He is monitoring my life every second. Did I plan to be born in a family where it helps me to pursue this evolutionary path? Did I plan? Did I plan to be born in these spiritual families? And people now who are listening to this talk have reasonable means for them to sustain. Otherwise, you won't be attending this. You didn't plan that. Bhagavan gave you this body, human body. You didn't plan that. He kept all your senses intact. You didn't plan that. He provides you all necessary experiences for which you cannot claim total responsibility. When you sleep, your systems are maintained. Where there are multi-systems coordinated, maintained, there has to be a systems manager. Where there are multi-systems and maintained, coordinated, there has to be a systems manager. Who is doing that? God. The God that loves you. Therefore, He has given you a human body. He has given you a family where you can pursue the spiritual path. He has chosen to give you the experiences that you need, some pleasant, some not so pleasant. Certainly has never left you, even for a moment, unattended. Have faith on Him. Hold His hand. March on. Thus, leave your unwanted obsessions of expectations and dependency on results and desires. So all this is possible only with the knowledge of the self. Otherwise, you think you are the body and you cannot get rid of the ego. So, Jnanagni Dakta Karmanam, all the egocentric desires, actions are burnt in the fire of this knowledge of the self. Tam ahuhu panditam buddhaha. Such a man is called by the wise as an enlightened man. And therefore, you want peace which is already in you. You don't have to get peace. You don't have to get moksha. It's already in you. Moksha is in you. Peace is in you. Deathlessness is in you. Security is in you. You, out of your choice, foolish choice, turned away from that, turned your attention to things that are mortal. You have turned your attention to things that are mortal, and therefore you experience what you are seeing. Reverse your attention to the very subject that illumines them and know that you are the subject. By that process, having known you to be the eternal blissful self, you will not have any dependency on the results, and that itself takes all agitations. Tyaktva karma phala sangam, renouncing your attachment to the results of actions. Nitya truptaha, ever experiencing the security, bliss of the self, and therefore satisfied. Nirashrayaha, not depending on the external world. Such a man, karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Though he is continuously acting, because of his not expecting anything to happen for his security and happiness, he has knowledge of the self which is ever secured and ever happy, and knowledge of the God who is taking care of him. In this faith and understanding, he doesn't allow himself to be drifted away by agitations. And all the time, he gains his peace, his joy from the self only. Nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Such a person, having known that as the self, what he experiences in sleep, he doesn't experience pain. So he doesn't want medicines. In sleep, he doesn't experience sorrow. So he doesn't want something to happen for him to be happy. In sleep, he has no hunger. So his mind doesn't go after food. All these disturbances come when you wake up because the mind is wanting all of them. You who can recollect your sleep state, know you to be that, in fact, what was experienced in sleep. Rest of the things are just needed for transactional level. Whatever you need for transactional level, for your own thing, God will provide you. You don't have to be agitated. If you have to live for a certain number of years, God will see that He provides you the food that you need, the experiences that you need. All He will provide. You just watch. And at that given moment, you will have some work to do. Because even if He puts the food before you, you have to eat it. So something you have to do, but what to do, how to do, not allow your mind to be obsessed with your possessions or to run after expectations. Obsessed with possessions is the past, what you gain. Running after expectations is future. Mind in the past, mind in the future misses the present. The happiness that you want is in the present. The very reason your mind is running up the present and the future, you are missing the happiness that is there in the present. And the future results are dependent on the present work. Therefore, you are missing the efficiency of the work and your future cannot be that good. So if your future has to bring you good results, if you have to enjoy the present moment, you have to withdraw from the past acquisitions, obsessions of acquisitions, not acquisitions, obsessions of acquisitions, undue preoccupation with the future results. You have to take something from the past experience. You have to plan something. But while working, do not bring those agitations. While working, you concentrate on the work. You focus on the work. And know that whatever these results come out of this work will not give me godhood that I am already there. They can only give me some conditions for me to contemplate. So therefore he says, Nirashi, free from hope, means future. Yata Chittatma, one who has controlled his mind, the senses. Tyakta Sarva Parigraha, detached from all sense of possessions, from all sense of possessions, Shariram Kevalam Karma, keeping his mind on God, he merely does actions that should be done at that moment. Physically, he does actions without dissipating mentally into the past or the future, focusing on the present. Merely physically does the actions. Shariram kevalam karma. Kurvan na apnoti kilvisham. Such a man doing actions, he will not gather vasanas, which are called sins, which are called kilvisham. See, vasanas are sins, vasanas are Sanskrit called kilbisham. They are called sins because it is these vasanas that make you a slave to the results, that make you a slave to the past and the future. So a man who detaches from his vasanas, a man who detaches from his expectations of the future results, a man who detaches his undue dependence on results, do not gather new vasanas, and gradually the existing vasanas gets thinned down. And in a thinned layer of vasanas, the self is experienced reasonably clear. So that is the mechanism of action done in the spirit of sacrifice. So he says, such a man, gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasaha yajnaya charata karma samagram praviliyati. Gata sangasya muktasya, a man who is freed from attachment. What is attachment? Attachment. Without that, I am not complete, is attachment. What does it mean? Without that, I am not complete when you say, I depend on that. Means what? I need it, I want it. And means what? I am this body. The understanding, I am this body, I plus I want that is called attachment. I plus I want that is called attachment, dependency. A man who has left, he has renounced this dependency, born out of the knowledge of the self, and ever living in that awareness of the self, doing the actions in the spirit of sacrifice only to reduce the vasanas for the welfare of the world, to see God in all, to expand his own self from this body to others. Such a man's vasanas, karmas, all are dissolved in this knowledge, in this fire of knowledge. So now he takes the subject in detail, what has been touched earlier. Yajna. What is an yajna? He gives the broad principle there of this yajna. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaevatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. This mantra is chanted before taking food, reminding us that everything is nothing but Brahman. The food that you are taking is Brahman. The one who is taking it is Brahman. The action of taking the food is also because of the Brahman. So to see Brahman in the subject, in the object, in the action is called Brahma Yajna, where the plurality is dissolved, the differences are dissolved, and where you don't see differences, there is security, there is happiness. So, in all your actions, you must be able to see God. You are performing because of God. The environment, the objects needed for the action are provided by Him. The very so-called you is nothing but Him in a particular form. So therefore, remember this and do that there is nothing other than Brahman. Seeing Brahman gives me happiness. Not seeing Brahman gives me agitations. This is all that you have to do in life. See God everywhere, you are peaceful. Miss God everywhere with best of possessions, best of experiences, best of situations, you will be agitated. You don't need anything more than this. See God in all. In adversities, see Him. In prosperity, see Him. In comfort, see Him. In pain, see Him. Practice this. You will attain such a peace which you have never known before through your sense gratifications or ego gratification. Feel His presence in everything, in every experience. You shall enjoy supreme bliss. Miss Him with everything that you want, you have, but you cannot have peace because having identified yourself as the body being finite, you will always feel insecure. So that was the meaning of that verse. Everything is Brahman. So Gurudev gives an example. Supposing, there is a big mela going on, like Ganesh Chaturthi and all that. Thousands of people are attending in a big pandal. There is a murti there. And there were several lights. Somebody tilted a lamp and the tent got fire and it became a big fire and people started running. Some people were trampled upon, some died. At that time, you wake up. Means this all dream. In this dream, Ganesha was your mind. The tent was your mind. The fire was your mind. The rush was your mind. Some people being trampled was your mind. Death was your mind. Similarly, in the waking world also, there is nothing other than God. The subject, the object, and the relationship between them, and the transaction between them are all God. See God, you will have peace. Miss God, you will not have peace. So now, a few different types of yajnas are given. But with a small variation of the ritualistic yajna. 12 types of yajnas are given here. In the ritualistic yajna, you have a yajna kunda, the fireplace. You have something to offer, fuel. There is an offerer. You invoke a particular god. That is the ritualistic yajna. How many people can do that? Negligible people. But everybody has a right to get that results, to go to God. So what to do? Sri Vedavyasa made these external yajnas subjective. You can in yourself discover all that is happening in you in the yajna bhava. Please mark my words. I request all serious students to listen to these talks a few times, take down your notes till all your confusions are clear. Because during the given time, I can only talk about that once or twice. Because you need time for you to think. My going on repeating will not help you. My going on repeating will not help. You have to think. Listen to the cassettes and then think, make notes, clear your doubts. So because of this yajna bhava, that whatever is there externally, you will be able to see inside you. Externally also, sun gives you energy, light. He doesn't expect anything from you. Without him, even rain won't be there. The rain god blesses you. They don't expect anything from you. Similarly, all natural phenomena does their work relentlessly, without break, in a proper way, that blesses all. So the entire external world is done in the yajna bhava. Your eyes provide you forms to be offered in the mind. The mind offers them to the intellect. The intellect draws its sustenance from the self. Senses, mind, intellect continuously are receiving the stimuli as offerings and passing it on to the inner faculties. So this entire life, you do not recognize it that way, but what is happening is an yajna. When you recognize it as an yajna, you become detached. You see God, you will be happy. When you do not recognize this play of yajna in your life, externally, internally, harmonized, coordinated by God. Otherwise, various factors, how they can coordinate. Eyes are different, ears are different. You see somebody singing. Ears hear the music, ears cannot see. Eyes see the person, eyes cannot hear. But coordinated collectively, you get the idea, this man is singing. That coordinator is the ego, and ego is essentially the consciousness lost its identity with the body, mind, intellect. So, basically, this consciousness supports, coordinates all our experiences. Know that. Have faith in that. Have faith in His wisdom. Be grateful. In that gratitude, serve all in His form outside. This is Yajna Bhava. This is Yajna Bhava. So he says now, so this Yajna Bhava, people can take up according to their mental evolution. Some people do this Yajna Bhava as an offering to God, Sister Devatas. Offer God various things and accept prasad. And others offer the ego into the understanding of the totality, the Godhood. That's called Brahma Yajna. The first is called Deva Yajna. When you offer things to Ishta Devatas or Devatas, it's called Deva Yajna. Also, you see forms. Forms are offered to the eyes. There is a presiding deity behind the eye that makes it see. Dead body cannot see. There is a presiding deity behind the ear to hear. Dead body cannot hear. These are all devas. You offer forms to the devas in the eye. You offer sound to the devas in the ears. All this is Yajna Bhava. This is called Deva Yajna. Brahma Yajna offer the ego in the knowledge of the self. So, Daivam eva apare yagnam yoginaha pari upasate. God alone they invoke. Yoginaha, people who want to harmonize the mind and intellect. Others, apare, Brahmagno, in the fire of Brahman, Yagnam, the very individual, the ego, Yagnena, through the sacrifice, offer themselves. And now, the organs of perception and the organs of action, how to do their functions as an yajna, how to make their functions as an yajna. Srotra dhinindriyan yanye samyamagnisha duhvati shabdadin vishayan anye indriyagnisha duhvati. You try to avoid things that bring disturbances to the mind. Avoid seeing things that are not conducive to your equilibrium. Avoid hearing things that are not conducive to the spiritual pursuit. Avoiding all your sense activities which are not conducive to the spiritual living is controlling at the level of the senses. Controlling at the level of the senses is called Dhamma. Controlling is at two levels. One, avoiding seeing, avoiding hearing. Second, when you are seeing or hearing, withdraw the mind from them. That's called mind control. Mind control is called Shama. Physical control is called Dhamma. Controlling at the level of the senses means avoiding. Controlling of the mind means you are seeing, you are hearing, but withdraw the mind. Focus it to the self. This is called Shama. Now these two are explained. Srotra dinindriyananye samyamagdishu juhvati shabdadin vishayananya indriyagnishu juhvati. So the senses are all withdrawn from perceptions through self-restraint. So this is symbolically said, the senses are offered in the fire of self-restraint. And then the stimuli that you get are stopped at the sense level itself. They are offered at the sense level itself, not received by the mind. Not received by the mind. Offer the stimuli that you get at the senses itself. Stop it there. So one is Dhamma, physical control. Another is Shama, mental control. Now he clubs all and says, Sarvendriya karmani, prana karmani chapare, atma samyama yogagnau, jihvati jnana dipate. Now he clubs all. Sarva indriya karmani, prana karmani. Indriya, karmendriyas, organs of action. Jnanendriyas, organs of perception. Then your pancha pranas, prana, receiving, apana, responding, vyana, circulating, samana, digesting, udana, thinking. One prana through various instruments does 5 functions. It receives stimuli, it's called prana. It responds, that's called apana. The received stimuli is digested, that's called samvyana. And the received stimuli is distributed to various parts according to the need, and that is called samana. And all these are possible because of the thinking. This prana now associated with the thinking. When you have no oxygen, neither your senses nor your thinking is possible. When the oxygen is not enough. So all your functions, physiological functions, are possible because of this prana. So these 5 pranas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, all together have to be regulated, moderated, controlled. You can only do that when you have the right knowledge of the self. Because you cannot control them without trying to tune yourself to that self, without trying to support yourself with that consciousness. You will not be able to do that. So therefore, that knowledge is necessary. With that knowledge, you control all the functions, organs of action, organs of perception, and the 5 pranas. And now he says how many types of actions are there. Dravya yajna, tapo yajna, yoga yajna, tatha pare, Swadhyaya Gnana Yagnascha Yataya Samshrita Vrataha. So, Dravya Yagna, you do Yagna through materials. Through materials. Can be the fire, usual homa and all that, or giving material, sharing material. Tapo Yagna, through self-restraint. Dravya Yagna, Tapo Yagna. Yoga Yagna, through integrating the mind and intellect, a diviner life. Yoga Yagna, Tata Apare, Swadhyaya Gnana Yagnascha. Swadhyaya, reading the scriptures, that itself in the spirit of sacrifice. And knowledge. Gaining knowledge means offer your ignorance. Offer in your ignorance in the fire of knowledge. That is called Jnana Yajna. Offer your ignorance in the fire of knowledge. These are the various types of yajnas. Broadly, whatever have been said, whatever other yajnas which are going to be said, they are broadly classified into Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, Swadhyaya Yajna. Apane juhvati pranam, prane panam, tatha pare, prana panagati rudhva, pranayama parayanaha. Apane juhvati pranam. You offer inhaling into the fire of exhaling. Similarly, offer exhaling into the fire of inhaling. Thus, having disciplined your prana apana, you make it an yajna, pranayama parayanaha. What does it mean? Prana, apana, we said receiving and responding. That means moderating your actions. Conscious activity. A basic principle in all yajnas, the subjective yajnas, which Sri Vedavyasa gives, in contrast to the materialistic yajnas of Homa and all that. Basic principle is conscious activity. When you do activities consciously, you have detached from the ego and the mind. When you do actions consciously, you have detached from the ego and the mind. That becomes a yajna. So here, the prana yajna is said, offer inhaling into exhaling, exhaling into means even breathing, consciously breathe, or acting, reacting, all let them be done consciously, not mechanically. That becomes an yajna. Apare niyataharaha pranan praneshu juhvati sarvepyate yajna vidaha yajna chapita kalmashaha. Others, through intelligent, moderate, disciplined eating. Pranan, pranesh, all physiological activities, prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana, all activities, offering into the mukhya prana, the vital air, means seeing all of them to be the offshoots of that. Consciously offer them into the mukhya prana, the life principle. Right? So, balanced living, moderate living, disciplined living. If you know all these things and do your actions, you become the knower of yajnas and thus purified from all the sources of sorrow to you, which are called sins. Yajna chapita kalmashaha. Kalmashaha, sins. You are purified from them. And a man who lives in the spirit of sacrifice, disciplined life. What is sacrifice? I'll give you 3-4 principles. Do not be confused about this yajna. Few principles I will give you. What is the basic principles of yajna? First is detachment. Detachment from the object, feeling the subject. This is one. Detaching from the object, feeling the self. Detaching from the results and drawing your inspiration from the self. Conscious activity, which detaches from the mind and doership and enjoyership. Conscious activity, to be conscious of God as an offering. All our activities to God means to know Him, to reach Him, and seeing God in all, serving all, the family, the society, etc. All this makes yajna. A man who does this way of activity brings out all the past vasanas, dirt, sins from him. He doesn't gather new vasanas. He doesn't gather new vasanas because there is no ego. And gradually, the layer of these vasanas gets reduced. The layer of these vasanas gets reduced and the self shines clearly. Self shines clearly. So such a man, having experienced the self, knows himself to be immortal. That's called Amrita. A man who doesn't experience the self, he who thinks himself to be the body, experiences mortality. So the difference between a man who does actions in the spirit of yajna, experiences immortality, the man who does actions for the sake of the ego-desired activities, experiences death. That is said here, yajna shishta amrita bhujaha yanti brahma sanatanam na ayam lokaha asti ayagnasya kutaha anyaha kurusattama. Yajna shishtaha, actions done in the spirit of sacrifice, give certain results, share it with all. What is left over, you must enjoy. And that, having reduced your vasanas, gives you immortality. So what you enjoy through such results of yajna is immortality. Yajna shishta amrita bhujaha yanti brahma sanatanam. He reaches that Brahman status. Reaches means what? He is already that. It's like dreamer reaching the waker. He knows himself, he discovers himself to be the Brahman. Reaching is not in time and space. Reaching is in dimension. He knows himself to be Brahman. And a man who doesn't do actions in this way, a man who does in this way gains immortality, the Brahman. A man who does not do actions in this way, na ayam lokaha asti ayagnasya kutaha anyaha. A man who doesn't do, he cannot get any meaningful results. He who does for egocentric thing, always in agitations, makes more and more people his enemies, competitors, jealousy, greed. Even this world he cannot enjoy. What to talk about the next world? So he cannot get immortality. He cannot get immortal. The only way to gain success in this world and peace and evolution, next level of consciousness, is through Yajna Bhava. And it says, Evam Bahuvida Yajna Vitato Brahmano Mukhe Karmajan Vidhitan Sarvan Evam Jnatva Vimokshase. Now, he has been elaborating these various yajnas. We think that's all the end of life. If you see, most of these spiritual people also, people who follow religion, each one takes one aspect, thinks that is complete. Some people take yoga and think that's the end. Some people take to pranayama, they think that is the end. Some people take to various vratas, they think that is the end. They are all means, they are not an end by themselves. Because they are all again connected to action. Action is finite. So whatever may be the glory of the yajnas, still they are only actions. So they are only a means, not an end. End is only through knowledge. That is the topic in the next few verses. First, he made us aware of this yajna spirit, which brings us closer to Godhood, in contrast to the egocentric actions. Now, he again cautions us, do not be lost in this yajna spirit. This is also a means. Knowledge is the end. So that topic is taken up now. Evam bahuvida yajna vitato brahmana mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam jnatva vimokshase. These many types of yajnas are spread forth before Brahman. Brahman means what? Vedas. Brahma has 4 heads, 4 Vedas. All these various yajnas are explained or mentioned in the Vedas, and understand all of them to be born out of karmajan vidhi. Understand they are born out of karma, therefore a means, not an end. And in these yajnas, Sreya Dravyamaya Yajnaha Jnana Yajna Parantapa Sarva Karma Akhilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. So, in all these yajnas, various yajnas, Jnana Yajna is superior. Sreya Dravyamaya Yajnas, where material things are involved, including action, Jnana Yajna is superior. Why? You are doing all these yajnas for gaining security and happiness. That is already there in you. It cannot be through action. It cannot be through yajna. It can only be through knowledge. And your pursuit of seeking security and happiness find their fulfillment, end in knowledge. Therefore, all these yajnas find their fulfillment, end in knowledge. Sreyan Dravyamaya Yajnaha Jnana Yajna Parantapa. Superior is the Jnana Yajna to the materialistic yajnas. Sarva karma akhilam partha. All actions end in knowledge, means find fulfillment in knowledge. All actions find fulfillment in knowledge. Therefore, through yajnas purify and gain knowledge. How do you gain knowledge? Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadechanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. This sloka gives the necessary qualifications, attitude a student should develop the way to approach a teacher. All means of gaining this knowledge is given here. Also, the qualifications of a teacher, both qualifications of a student, qualifications of a teacher. That jnanam, what you want, jnanam is itself Brahman. So therefore Brahman is also called tat, tvam asi. Tat vidhi, when it says here, that jnanam that you want, or that Brahman that you want, pranipatena, prostrating, not physical, it disturbs. When people go on prostrating to a saint, he is not happy, he is disturbed. So pranipatena is not physical prostration. Throwing your mind at his feet. That is why it is called sa asta anga. Sastanga means the five senses and the mind, intellect and the ego. Mind, intellect and ego. These are called asta anga. Sastanga namaskara. So it's physically is only in a way to gain that attitude. But main is throwing your mind, intellect at his feet. So pranipata is not merely physical, prostrating at the feet of the teacher, pariprasnena, continuously questioning the teacher. Questioning is permitted in Hinduism mainly. All our scriptures starts questioning through question answers. Here also it started Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. Bhagavatam it starts, Ramayana it starts, everywhere where all Upanishads also starts question answering. Mostly, even if not all, mostly starts question answers. Because that's the only way you can learn. Because when you question, the teacher knows your mind. When you question, the teacher knows where exactly you have the problem and he can give you the answer. You don't question, you cannot get the right answer. So questioning, two aspects he has said. One, prostrating means surrendering. Surrendering your ego, surrendering your mind. When you are listening to the teacher, do not allow your ego to come into the listening. That is your prejudices, your judgments, your likes, your dislikes. Do not judge the teacher. Do not judge the teaching. At that time at least. Do not judge the teaching. Do not judge the teacher. Have full faith, surrender. And with sincerity, not because you have to ask a question, you ask. You have a genuine doubt, you ask. Otherwise, don't ask. Pariprasnena, sevaya, serving the teacher. What? Massaging. Again, it's a disturbance. Seva, what is the best seva you can do? Supposing now somebody says here, I want to do service to you. What service I like? Any teacher likes. To propagate what he is trying to propagate to others. There cannot be a greater teaching than propagating, number one, than living what is taught. The best service to a teacher is to live what is taught and to propagate it to others. He doesn't need any other service. Every other service is a disturbance to him. To such people, the teachers, upadechanti te gnanam, they teach the knowledge of the self. Who are the teachers? Jnaninaha, one who knows the Shastras, Tattva Darshinaha, one who has experienced that. If you do not know the Shastras, if you have experience, you can be a Mahatma, but you cannot be a teacher. You know the Shastras, but don't have the experience, again you can't be a teacher. To be a teacher, you need Shastric knowledge and personal experience. This is called Srotriya and Brahmanishta. Srotriya, one who has knowledge. Brahmanishta, one who is ever in that state of consciousness. Having known that, what is the benefit? Yajnatva punar moham evam jnasyasi pandava ena bhutan aseshena drakshasi atmani ataha mayi. Once you have such knowledge, the confusion that you are now in, Arjuna, seeing the Kauravas and Pandavas as though different individuals, not as one God, and therefore feeling responsible for killing and their dying, therefore suffering, all these are removed by this knowledge. And you see one God in all of them. And you see the same God in you. You will see the same God in me. This Sarvatma Bhava, seeing God in all, takes away the duality, which is the cause of all limitations, which makes you see death, which makes you feel the sufferer. And with this knowledge, all your doership, enjoyership ends. There is no guilt. There are no regrets. There is no anxiety. I have murdered somebody in my dream. On waking up, the murderer is gone. I have done a yajna in my dream. On waking up, the man who did the yajna is not there. So, on waking up, just like from the dream, you are neither a murderer nor a man who did the yajna. On waking up to this higher knowledge, you will be completely delinked from all sins, even if you are the worst sinner, because the sinner was the ego, like the dreamer. Now you have completely detached from the ego, so you will not be punished for them. You will not be punished for them because the ego is not there. Gurudev gives an example. The police brings an arrest warrant. And when he enters the home, he sees the man is dead. They can't serve the notice because the man is not there. So also, the doer is the ego. In a gnani, the doer is dead. So these karma phalas cannot be attached to him. Api chedasi papebhyaha sarvebhyaha papa kruttamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if you are worst of the sinners, papebhyaha, of all the sinners, papa kruttamaha, the superior, the superlative degree, worst of sinners, papebhya papa kruttamaha sarvebhyaha, of all of them, you are the Nobel laureate in sinology. Even if you are that, sarvam jnana plavenaiva, all through this boat of knowledge shall cross this ocean of samsara, change, phenomena of change. So it is not through any action, it is not even through yajna, but it is through the knowledge. How does it do? Yathaidamsi samidhugni bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagnya sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tata. When you do the yajna, you put a name stick, you put a sandalwood stick, right? You put various sticks, atti, fig and all that. The fire burns all that. After that, can you see distinctions? Once they all become ash, neem, sandalwood, you can't distinguish. Similarly, this fire of knowledge has burnt all your karmas, and there will not be any trace in you left. Yathaidamsi samidhugni bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Just as the blazing fire reduces all fuel into ash, this fire of knowledge shall devour, shall burn all our vasanas. And therefore, for your emancipation, for your moksha, for your purification, for gaining the godhood, you don't have any other means greater than jnana. Na karma, na praja, na dhana. Not through materials, not through people, not through influence, not through family, not through actions you can gain it. You can only gain it through knowledge. Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitrameha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha kalenatmani vindati. There is no other purifier, means one who takes away all your vasanas and makes you God, takes away all those obstructions that are obstructing the experience of God that you are. They are all removed by this knowledge, and that knowledge can be gained by a man who has integrated his mind and intellect. That means one who had brought the mind under the purview of the intellect, where the mind and intellect act as one instrument. Then you gain this knowledge. If the mind drags you in one direction, intellect in one direction, you cannot gain this knowledge. So that integration is possible when you have total faith. That faith, that which makes you understand, that which makes you gain, is called Shraddha. Shraddha is not blind faith. Shraddha, teachers cannot be wrong, scripture cannot be wrong. I should gain that. Tenacity of purpose. I should gain that. I need it. I must. Teacher cannot be wrong. Scripture cannot be wrong. All these various factors put together is Shraddha. It's not mere blind faith. Somewhere Gurudev gives a sentence, to believe in what you do not know, so that you may come to know what you believe in. That's called faith. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyat indriyaha. Tatparaha, one who keeps that as the goal. That means Brahman. That knowledge is gained by one who has Shraddha, who has controlled his senses, Samyat Indriyaha. And once you gain that knowledge, Jnanam Labdhva, Param Shantim Achirena Adigachati. Supreme peace. What is supreme? Right now you have a disturbance. Some solution is found. You have a Shanti now, but that's not lasting Shanti. Next challenge comes, this Shanti is disturbed. But when you gain knowledge, once for all, you gain the ultimate peace that is never disturbed, never punctuated. That's called Param Shanti, supreme peace. Agnascha ajshraddhadanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti na paraha na sukham samshayatmana. Agnascha, one who doesn't have this knowledge, an ignorant man, because he has no faith, no tenacity of purpose, ashraddhadanascha, who doubts the scriptures, who doubts the teacher, who doubts everything. Samshayatma vinashyati. He is lost for ever from this state of godhood. Such a man who has no faith, who doesn't have knowledge, he cannot be enjoying even this material life properly. Without faith, you cannot achieve anything. So this world is not there. What to talk about the higher worlds? He cannot have if he doesn't have faith and knowledge. Agnescha, no knowledge. Asraddhadanascha, no faith. Samshayatma, the doubting Thomas, Vinashyati, is destroyed. Na ayam lokaha asti. For such a man, even this world is not there for him. Na paraha, no question of talking about the supreme state of consciousness. Na sukham, he cannot find any comfort or happiness or peace. Such a doubting man, Samshayatmanaha. Therefore, what you should do is said in the next two verses. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya. Through yoga, means through karma yoga, through yajna bhava, sanyasta karmanam, renouncing your attachment to all the results and the sense of doership and enjoyership, jnana sanchinna samshayam, cutting asunder all your doubts through the sword of knowledge, atmavantam, who is resting in his own self, na karmani, the results of actions, which bring sorrow, nibadnamti dhananjaya, him the actions do not bind. So, actions are not declared. Therefore, he said, Dhananjaya, one who has conquered well, means that's not an obstruction. Action is not an obstruction. Possessions are not an obstruction. It's your lack of knowledge, consequent dependence, ignorance. That is the bondage. Tasmat ajnana sambhutam hrustam samshayam atmanaha chitvainam samshayam yogam attishtottishta bharata. Therefore, Arjuna, this doubt that you got in you, that these people are going to be killed, you are going to be the killer, this doubt, now, having got this knowledge from me, cut it off through the sword of knowledge and rest yourself in your real being. So he says, Tasmat, therefore, ajnana sambhutam, this doubt that you got out of ignorance, hrustam, in your heart now, jnanasina, through that sword of knowledge, atmanaha, of the self, this ignorance of the self, chitva, having cut it asunder, yenam samshayam, this doubt, yogam attisto bharata, attisto tishta bharata. You now try to get into that process of yoga. Take off this doubt. Get into that process of yoga through which, having got the right harmony between the mind and intellect, later you can gain the knowledge. So Krishna has not misled him. But Arjuna allows him to be misled. How he gets himself to be misled? What are the answers? The final chapter on Karma Yoga, the 5th chapter, we shall see next week. Okay? Om Tatsate iti Srimad BhagavatGita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastri Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Chaturdhodhyayaha Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Suchaha. We'll see. We'll meet next week. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Hari Om, Uncle. Thank you.